Hello, good evening and good afternoon, and say hi to Sarah. Hi Sarah, how are you?
Good evening, I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Duncan?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, not bad at all. It's great to see quite a few people joining us live this evening, and those of you who are joining us live, it would be great if you could join in with the activities in our live chat window. If you're watching this later, which most people do, on not joining us live, obviously you can't join in with the live activities, but you can still have a go at them, and maybe you get the option to pause your video and have a bit longer on some of them, which I have to say on one of the later activities might be an advantage. There's one where we've got 30 seconds to do quite a lot, but we'll give you a bit longer, really. So it'll be all right.
Lots of challenge today.
There's a lot of challenge. So we're looking at Marxism. If those of you who've been joining us for the last few sessions, we've been going through some theories, and we've also practicing skills. So we've been looking at functionalism the last couple of weeks, and we looked at analysis through functionalism and then evaluation through functionalism. So we're doing that with Marxism now, so it's Marxism and analysis today. So a bit of theory and methods knowledge, what do you know about Marxism, but also practicing that tricky skill of analysis. You know, I think it's one that students often say, I don't know quite what's expected of me for analysis. So hopefully we'll help with that this evening as well. So shall we get going?
Yes, let's get started. Right. Matilda's already excited. Thank you for sharing, Matilda.
Oh, that's great. So we're going to start with an activity with Sarah, and it's a new one for us. We haven't done this one. Well, we have done it years ago, but it's a long time since we've done this one. It's called the cube. I hope you can read the writing on the cube when it comes on. If you're on a phone, you might need to make sure you've got the maximise.
If you're able to zoom in on the cube, it can definitely help. Yeah. I know that students have got a good trick sometimes of taking a screenshot and then zooming in. So if you zoom in on the video, you might be able to do that. And of course, if you have a screenshot of the cube, you could go back to it later, couldn't you, as well?
That could be a useful thing. Do you want to tell us what? Do you want to tell us what we're meant to be looking out for on this cube?
Yes.
The time has already started.
Can't start the timer yet. We need to know what to do. So what you've got to do here is you've got to pick out the Marxist terms. So there's loads of other terms in there. And actually, if you wanted to be extra good at this, you would pick out the two groups that the other terms are from. But the most important thing is pick out the Marxist key terms and pop them in the chat. Tell us what you've got.
Yeah. So it's like a sort of Rubik's Cube. It's been jumbled up. Can you try and tell us what would be on the Marxism side of the cube?
Yeah, and we've got some names of thinkers, some names of sociologists, as well as some key concepts.
Yeah.
So it's a nice little warm-up, really, just getting you thinking about what those Marxist terms are and all of that lovely Marxist vocabulary that you've got. So give it a go. If you spot a word, pop it in the chat.
Yeah.
We haven't got any music for this one, have we?
No, just a little timer going along. So Matilda said meritocracy would be for another sociologist in education. Yeah, so some of these aren't for Marxism. If you could tell us what they are for, that'd be great. Oh, Jay's coming.
Yeah, where would meritocracy go if it wasn't with Marxism?
Yeah, Jay's coming with some. Vanya's coming with one. Daisy's coming with one. No, this is great.
Well done, Vanya. Oh, Jay, you got a good list there. Althazar. Oh, anime, though. Where would anime go? Would it fall in Marxism? Maybe not. False class consciousness, unit of consumption, excellent. Zaretsky, Daisy, you had a question mark, but you've got a very good answer there.
Yeah.
Yep.
We had Vanya said legitimation of inequality. Yeah, legitimation
well
of
done.
inequality. Yeah.
Perfect. False class consciousness, vital. Althazar, well done, Miranda. Good. Are there any more hidden in there that we haven't found yet?
Oh, we've got, what have we got there? Inheritance of private property and
well
ideological control.
And particularly if you do the family topic, inheritance of private property, you might have looked at. Ideological control, great, because that goes across so many different topics.
Unit of consumption. Yeah. Very good.
And Gabby said it is anime Durkheim, which, yeah, Durkheim would have talked about that term. You might come across it when you're doing crime.
Yeah. And or Merton, absolutely. Merton and Durkheim would both talk about anime.
Yes,
Parsons would talk about meritocracy. Feminists would talk about gender pay gap. So people are picking up that other people say, yeah, gender pay gap would link to feminism. I mean, obviously, there's some overlap, particularly, obviously, we've got our Marxist feminists. So some Marxist feminists would talk about. Oh, well done, Jay. Opium of the Masses.
Well done. If you don't do beliefs, you might not know Opiate of the Masses. No. But it is sometimes kind of a common thing that people know because it gets quoted a lot. But it's essentially a Marxist term about religion.
Yeah. What is the organic analogy, Elif has asked? So that's a functionalist idea. And it's the idea that society is like a human body and the various institutions like the organs in the human body. So sometimes see it as the human body analogy. You might have seen it written as that. And that's, yeah.
Was it Parsons that said the family is the heart of the organic analogy?
I like that one, isn't it? Yeah, the family's the heart.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hegemonic masculinity, where would that go? Vanya, I'll throw a question back at you. Where would that go? Who would be most likely to be talking about gender and masculinity?
Yeah, and Jay has answered.
There we go. But actually the word hegemony on its own, comes from a neo-Marxist, doesn't it? So the term hegemony is used more widely, but we sometimes borrow it into feminism sometimes. Role allocation. Vanya, where would role allocation be? Is it a Marxist term?
So Vanya's spotted again that hegemonic masculinity would be feminist, which is good. But yeah, where would we put role allocation?
Where would we put role allocation? Marxists wouldn't deny that it happens, but the term itself doesn't come from Marxists. Have we got any more coming through? Bridge theory in education, school is the bridge. Definitely nice theory for education, but not Marxist. Yeah. Who gives us bridge theory?
Yeah, just saying role allocation functionalists, absolutely. So Davison Moore, or maybe Tolcott Parsons talk about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fits very well with
King? What about King of the Castle?
Oh, yeah. I wonder how many... Let us know if you've heard of King of the Castle or not.
I just spotted that was on there. No one had mentioned it, so I thought that...
Because if you haven't done the families topic, you might not have looked at King of the Castle. And actually, it's a Zaretsky term. You might talk about Zaretsky and use kind of slightly different terms. Not everyone uses King of the Castle. It is quite a nice Marxist phrase.
So that one is Marxist as well. Shall we reshuffle the
Let's
cube?
look at the solution, shall we?
Yeah. Bear with me a second. There we go. Oh, I don't know where there's... Oh, there we go. So Marxism...
On the right-hand side, you've got your Marxism.
Yeah.
And I think we covered them all, didn't we? We had Althusser, we had Zaretsky, we had King of the Castle, ideological conditioning, unit of consumption, false class consciousness, opiate of the masses, legitimisation of inequality, and inheritance of private property.
Yeah.
Even if you aren't familiar with some of those, they might be worth doing a bit of wider reading, making a note of, because even though you might not use them for certain topics, for theories and debates, some of those terms are really useful.
Absolutely. And as people spotted, the other two sides that we could see were functionalism and feminism, and people spotted those, didn't we? Which is great.
Well done.
Okay. Bit of analysis now. Getting straight in with some analysis. Okay. What you often find with students is that they are very good at remembering processes. You do your revision, absolutely, and you'll remember that a Marxist concept might include something like hegemony, which Sarah was just talking about, or the ideological state apparatus, the repressive state apparatus, the exploitation of labour or the workers, reproduction of inequality or alienation. You know that these are Marxist terms, and if you use them, this is good AO1, and we're getting ticks for knowing them. But what sometimes students will do is they will move on and they won't explain what these actually mean. And what we're describing here are processes. And so a really useful way to analyse a process is to explain the kind of chain of events that goes along. What is actually going on under this term? What does it actually mean? Can you explain the concept? And that really then starts getting those analysis marks, which are so useful in all your question types. But actually, particularly in like a 10 marker, where you sort of think, how do I develop this? If we're saying, particularly with the outline and explain 10 markers, so we don't really want evaluation in this. So how are you going to develop this point? Well, explain those processes. Don't just tell me that they exist or who said them, but what do they actually mean and how do they work? So we're going to spin a wheel. We're going to spin a connection spinner. It's going to land on one of these, and I want you to really explain what it's talking about. What is this process? How does it work? So I don't know where it's going to land. Could land anywhere.
Where's it going to land?
Oh,
tricky one to start with.
It is a tricky one. Now, this is a word that there is no official pronunciation in the English language. You can pronounce it however you like. So I tend to say hegemony.
I say hegemony.
A lot of people say hegemony. And, these are fine. So it doesn't matter how you pronounce it. But what does it actually mean? You can tell me who writes about it if you want to. Now, not everyone will have used this necessarily. Depends perhaps partly on what topics that you do, but it is a good Marxist concept. Oh, Jay's come in. The dominant ideology of the ruling class used to oppress the working class. So very good. Okay, absolutely. So it's a way that the ruling class oppresses the working class without necessarily having to use the repressive state apparatus, if you like. Oh, Mary's coming there, maintaining ruling class maintaining control over society, but through ideas and culture and dominant ideology, as Jay said, rather than say the repressive state apparatus. And Matilda has correctly identified as this. It is a term we associate most strongly with Gramsci. So that's really good. Well done. Let's have a look what... Yeah, it is Jess. It is Gramsci's idea. The word predated him. So the word existed before, and it just... And you'll sometimes, if you do like global politics or something, you might hear it in its other meaning, which is basically a sort of... people talk about, say, American hegemony. So it's like the dominant power in the world. Like if there's like a country that dominates... they could be described as hegemonic. But Gramsci used the idea to refer to ideas and culture and ruling class dominant ideology. And part of the reason he kind of changed the language, this is just an interesting aside, incidentally, you wouldn't need to talk about this in an essay, but part of the reason why he sort of changed the language of Marxism was that he was in prison. He was imprisoned by the fascists in Italy, and he was sending out his writings in letters, but they had to get past the prison censors. And so rather than using words like dominant ideology and things that Marx would have used, he used words that the prison guards didn't understand. So there we go. So an interesting aside. And he described, whenever he was writing about Marxism, he always called it the theory of praxis. Just an interesting aside. There you go. So that they didn't know he was talking about Marx. Okay. What have we got here? So dominant ideas transmitted through social institutions such as education, media, or religion. Okay. So you did very well with that one. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to spin the wheel again. Hope it doesn't land on hegemony again, because we've already done that one. Hope it lands somewhere different. Oh, the reproduction of inequality. Now, you've looked at that probably in a few different ways across the course, and obviously you all do different optional topics, but you'll definitely have talked about this in a core topic as well. So how do Marxists think that inequality is reproduced? So the class inequality, how is it reproduced into the next generation, if you like? Some of the things we've talked about when we were looking at the cube do link with this, and we were sort of saying, oh well, Marxists do acknowledge that happens, but they think something else is going on. That might help us a little bit.
Family. It allows for the upper class or the ruling classes to pass on their property, allowing the rich to stay rich as wealth is passed on. So
excellent. Yeah.
Inequality through the inheritance of private property.
Excellent.
Well done.
And Daisy said that. So that is definitely one of the ways that it does it. Yeah, Jay, where institutions such as education perpetuate existing class structures such as school mirroring the workplace. Fantastic. Yeah, so if you think about if you think about the various ways that Marxists say that the education system ensures that the children of working class kids end up having working class jobs, that reproduces inequality, doesn't it? Jess, but inequality is reproduced across generations through institutions like family and education, for example, passing down property through inheritance laws. Fantastic. Daisy's mentioned private schools, so kids, the children of richer parents being able to pay for pay to get better results, if you like, and therefore move on to themselves getting high paid jobs. Okay, you've done very well with that.
Social connections as well through private schools, social capital.
Absolutely, yeah. Fantastic, yes. Yeah, we can link it with all that sort of social capital. Miranda. Hidden curriculum could teach the working class to be submissive and the ruling class to be dominant. This is excellent stuff.
Well done.
Really good. Yeah, I'm very, very impressed. The myth of meritocracy does work, Jess. Absolutely, it does. People are taught to believe that inequality is fair, and therefore, they don't question it, and they don't rebel against it. Fantastic. So legitimising inequality through the myth of meritocracy. Well done, Jess. Justifying poverty through religious beliefs. There's loads of different, depending on what topics you do, lots and lots of different ways that you could see how Marxists would explain how class inequality is perpetuated through the generations. Wow, really, really good. Yeah, I'm going to hand back over to Sarah now for the bubble quiz. Now, when we talk about analysis being kind of explaining processes and things, there's going to be some briefer analysis on this one, isn't it? But you tell us what we're doing on this one.
We're kind of thinking with this one about how do we respond to an analysis question.
Yes.
And often when we think about analysis, it's about the impact, it's about the consequences, it's those kind of, that like what are the implications of something. So we're going to have a little go at kind of spotting what would and wouldn't be good analysis, and in terms of like points that you might develop further. And as you may know, if you've done the bubble quiz of us before, there can be any number of correct answers. So all of those answers could be correct. Some of them could be correct, or none of them could be correct. So you need to put in the chat A, B, C, D, or a combination of that. Doing the OCR board, is this still applicable? Duncan, I'll let you take that question.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you'll talk about Marxism, Marxist theory, and some of the topic areas we discuss you might not cover, and you'll do some other different topic areas, but vast majority of it would be absolutely relevant. Yeah.
Brilliant. We've got lots of C's and D's coming through. So the question is, analyse 2 impacts of false class consciousness. So ultimately, this could be a 10-mark essay, and you're picking your 2 points that you're going to make, and we need to make sure we're picking the right things. So we've got quite a consensus, I would say, on C and D for this one. Shall we reveal? There we go. Because, of course, false class consciousness does not enhance meritocracy. It does not create rebellion. It kind of dulls rebellion. So the right answers there: reinforces the status quo, so basically keeps things the same. Discourages revolution. That's the whole point. We want that lovely false class consciousness to stop anyone realising how oppressed they are. Because we don't want revolution. We just want the ruling classes to continue with their wealth and privilege. There we go. I sound like I really supported the idea there, don't I, of the ruling classes having that. Okay, let's have a look at number 2. Analyse the impact of socialisation in schools according to Marxists. So how would they analyse, how would Marxists analyse the impact of socialisation? So we've got teaching students to conform, creating social cohesion. Does that sound like a Marxist term? Transmitting the ideology of the ruling class, and ensuring equal opportunities for everyone.
Oh, they're too good at this, aren't they? They're coming in really quick.
Doing very well.
Yeah.
There we go. A and C, we've got a bit. Anyone else want to disagree?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I skipped to the end because they were all getting them right.
Nice forward. If you were going to pick those 2 things, and then you would develop those into paragraphs and you would apply some theory. So that's just your kind of starting point, and then you would analyse those further. What about number 3? So we've got 4 of these all together. Analyse the mechanisms. And when we were talking about processes just now, another word you can use for processes is mechanisms. So mechanism is a process, quite a nice fancy word that you can use. But when we're looking here at what are the mechanisms that can reduce false class consciousness.
Yeah. Now you might not have you might not have looked at this, although people are coming in with the right answers straight away.
This might be something you think quite hard about, I think.
Yeah, but it's one where you can work it out, I should think, and lots of you are doing. And you might have covered it in some topic areas like work, poverty and welfare and things like that. Yeah, don't worry if you've not looked at this. But if you think about, what false class consciousness is. So you think, well, what would these other, it's kind of a process of elimination. Would the other
think
things...
about what might strengthen false class consciousness, and then on the opposite side, what might reduce false class consciousness. And this has got some kind of contemporary examples, really.
It has. Well, loads of people have come in very strongly with D, and they would be correct. Very good.
There we go. So reduce false class consciousness, something like organising of trade unions. And if you think about trade unions, you might think about strikes, you might think about kind of protest, that kind of thing. Whereas all the others are very kind of either consumption-based, which will promote a unit of consumption as a false class consciousness, or very functionalist idea of role allocation there, which would really keep perpetuating that false class consciousness. Right, let's go on to number 4.
Oh, limitations.
Okay, limitations. So with your analysis, you might start to draw comparisons. You might think about strengths, limitations. You might develop further how something might be problematic. So what are limitations of Marxist theory? And actually, when you think about limitations, it can be really good for your 6 markers as well, where you're often asked to do 3 limitations sometimes. What have we got? We've got a few suggestions. We've got a B. We've got 2 ABCs. We've got a suggestion it might be all of them. Any more suggestions?
Quite a few ABCs now. That seems to be getting popular.
Yes, we have.
Don't worry.
Is passive puppets an AQA term? Annie, you might not have heard passive puppets specifically, but you've probably heard the term deterministic. And it's just a kind of broader term. It's not specifically an AQA term. No. It's just a broader term that gets used by sociologists, often talking about if something is deterministic, the way it views people in society is often viewing them as passive puppets. So it's like the opposite of having free will.
Yeah, so it's kind of like saying that they're not, they don't have agency. It's the opposite of having agency, isn't it?
But your exam boards don't specify the exact words that you would use to describe sociological things. So some teachers will use it, some teachers won't, and it's totally fine because there's loads of other words we could use. I really like passive puppets because it's a bit of alliteration. It sticks in my mind.
Absolutely. A lot of people have gone ABC in various orders, and you would be right.
Absolutely.
So the reason why it's not D, that would be more of a functionalist one, isn't it? Seeing things through rose-tinted glasses means that you have an optimistic view, and no one would tend to. Yeah, you wouldn't tend to accuse Marxists of having an optimistic view of society, would you?
No, it's not what they're there for, is it? Right, we're back to Duncan.
All right. We've got another analytical activity now. This is one we do quite a lot when we're doing analysis type activities called stepping stones. Because as we mentioned before, this kind of chain of analysis is kind of explaining how one thing leads to another. That's that kind of process idea. And again, students will often skip to the end. Now, these are actually both relating to families. So if you don't do families as one of your topics, you might not know this. These are sort of Marxist ideas in relation to the sociology of families, and obviously kind of 90-odd% of AQA students do families and households as their optional topic, but obviously if you do culture and identity or one of the others or something, you might not know this, but don't worry, it's still useful to follow this through, and you might know or know it anyway through theory and methods potentially. So we've got one here. One contribution to Marxism to our understanding of family life is the safe haven. Okay, and lots of you know about that because I saw people talking about Zaretsky in an earlier activity. And we've got a few links, a few gaps to get to how this demonstrates that the family is used to prop up the capitalist system. Okay, and this is really useful to think about because quite often people look at the safe haven and Zaretsky and think, oh, that's really similar to the warm bath theory, isn't it? That's like kind of the same. So why is this Marxist and the other one's functionalist? And maybe this is where you can, explaining this is really how you can demonstrate why this point's useful and why this is an interesting point to make. So, how does family acting as a safe haven prop up the capitalist system? Can you try and explain this process? Mary's asking who's linked to rose-tinted glasses. It's not really linked to a particular sociologist. It's just a sort of broad criticism of functionalism generally, that they tend to be a bit optimistic. Okay, anyone? Obviously this take a little bit longer. Shall we just think what might our first stage be? So could you tell me maybe first of all just explain what's meant by family life being a safe haven and who said it? That might be our first link in the chain. Our first step. Sorry, I'm mixing my metaphors there, aren't I? Our first stone across the river. Workers are less likely to protest, which allows capitalists to profit more from hard work. That is excellent, and that's going to be one of our final steps across the river, which is brilliant. So Daisy's saying, is it like the warm bath theory where the wife reduces stress so they don't take their stress out at work? It is, yeah. But the interesting bit is that bit about say they don't take their stress out at work, is very much the Marxist element to it, isn't it? Whereas, Parsons is saying this same process or a very similar process is beneficial for society as a whole to make it function. Marx is saying it's beneficial for capitalism and the ruling class for this reason. So the family is portrayed as loving and private space. Family acts as a comforting environment that supports capitalism by absorbing stress from work, allowing exploitation to continue. These are all really good. As I say, we're going to sort of take it step by step. So we've got Zaretsky arguing that family acts and provides a psychological function from the effects of capitalism. Lots of you have said that. Sorry, the word slightly oddly there, but we know what we mean. We've got workers are then able to return to their family after a hard day at work, which provides them with relief from the alienation of work. That's that emotional, physical care and support that Jay talked about, or absorbing the stress that Jess mentioned. Absolutely. And then linking back to, I can't remember who it was earlier on, said, this prevents them from taking their frustrations out in the workplace, stops them from rebelling, stops them from going on strike or whatever else they might do, and that helps the family to prop up the capitalist system. Excellent. We've got one more of these. So let's see how you do with this one. So it's another families topic, another Marxist view of the family. A further contribution of Marxism to our understanding of family is through unpaid labour, which allows capitalism to continue from one generation to the next. So a couple of people I think have already kind of hinted at this somewhere. Jay talked about reproducing the labour, which is obviously a big part of this would the past one be considered a good thing to Marxism? Do you mean the safe haven thing? No. So Marxists obviously dislike capitalism and want capitalism to be want there to be a revolution or rebellion, and so they're saying, unfortunately the family provides this function. They would like people to have class consciousness and to rebel against the.
I think they kind of use it as an example of how exploitation happens, don't they? So it's kind of the process of how exploitation gets to be, established in the institutions of society.
Okay, so Matilda said it means women are not rebelling at work. So Marxists would want women to rebel at work. Women and men and everyone, yeah. Yes, Marxists
who realise their oppression and rebel,
Yeah, Marxists are very pro-rebellion. Jay saying, unpaid domestic labour, such as housework, allow workers to return back to work and produce for capitalist society. Okay, so that's, absolutely. So the unpaid domestic labour and housework is this unpaid labour that we're talking about, and it does allow people to return back to work and produce the capitalist society, so that's a big part of it and links back to our safe haven thing. What else does unpaid labour do? So Marxist feminists argue that women often perform unpaid labour in the home. And Mary said that, absolutely fantastic. Marxists argue that women unpaid labour in the family benefits capitalism. How does it benefit capitalism? Jess, women are the unpaid workers at home. They take the majority of the domestic emotional labour in the household. They do all of these things. How does this benefit capitalism? If we think about it, think for a second that, like, we've got feminists who talk about this, haven't we? Like the dual burden and the triple shift, but they don't particularly focus on how it benefits capitalism. They think about how it benefits the patriarchy and is bad for women. How does this specifically benefit capitalism? James, but unpaid labour reinforces gender and class inequalities, ensuring capitalist production and social order. I like everything that everyone's saying. There are some practical ways it supports capitalism as well. If you were a capitalist and you've got some workers, cost reduction, Jay. Yeah, you don't have to feed them. You don't have to feed your workers. Keep them healthy. Make sure they're happy. Yeah, there's other people doing that job, and you don't have to pay them for it. Okay, so that's the point here. These domestic responsibilities, such as childcare, housework, are performed for no pay by women. They feed and clothe the workers and reproduce the next generation of workers to be exploited. Capitalism gets all this work done for it for nothing. Daisy's put, is it where women perform childcare, socialising the kids into following rules and stuff like they do in the future? And that's another point as well. Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of socialisation of the next generation into a kind of passive and compliant role where they do what they're told. Absolutely. Mary's for telling children norms and families obey the rules and accept authority, so they grow up to fit into jobs in the system. This is all brilliant stuff, going way beyond what we've got there. Basically. Yeah, fantastic. I'm very impressed. I feel they're going to do very well with our very challenging final activity that you've got for them, Sarah.
I think you're ready for this, guys. Yeah, we've got 3 of these to look at, and I think this is really tough. So in 30 seconds, you're going to have to think really quickly, type really quickly. We
might give you a little extra. Should we give them a little bit of extra typing time? I think that's
we can always do a little bit more than 30 seconds, I think, especially as you've got such brilliant stuff to share.
Yeah, 30 seconds thinking.
What this is going to do, it's going to just ask you to analyse. So the first one is going to ask you to analyse the implications of something. And actually, Duncan, just skip back a bit for a minute, will you? Just there, so you can just see it says each question asks you to analyse. Try using the connectives that we use to show kind of depth of analysis. So therefore, furthermore, consequently. So what we're doing is we're really breaking down these processes, these mechanisms, and that's how we show that analysis. Okay, so we've got therefore, furthermore, consequently is the kind of terms we want to use. Let's have a look at the first one. Analyse the implications of ideological conditioning on the working classes. Now, you could go with education, you could talk about it generally, you could go with religion, you could look at the media, you could look at family. This is quite a broad term, so think about how you're going to use it, and then think about using those terms. Shall we start the timer?
Yeah, giving people a bit of extra thinking time by not starting straight away.
It could well be 60-second analysis would work well here.
It would. Got a little bit of music then.
There we go. So what might it create? Ideological conditioning. We're talking about brainwashing, mind control, thought control. What might it create? What might the consequences be? What is the impact then on the working classes? What's the implications for them? You might want to talk about what it maintains, what it creates, what it reproduces. I can just feel everyone frantically typing away. It's good to do these things under time pressure because, of course, in the exam, there's never enough time.
Absolutely.
It's a good revision activity if you can replicate it at home with a stopwatch. Okay, Jess. There is an acceptance of inequality. So ideological conditioning is creating this acceptance, isn't it? Yes, well done. So people are buying into the system, they're believing in it, they're accepting it. So that means that the working class see this class inequality as normal. Yes, it's legitimised, isn't it? It's completely accepted. Therefore, maintaining and reproducing the class system. Well done, Jess. That's really nice, yeah. Really nice analysis. What's Jay given us? Ideological conditioning refers to the processes of which institutions reproduce capitalist norms. Well done. Therefore, excellent, preventing them from recognising their own exploitation, which then stops them rebelling.
Yeah, great stuff.
That's really good. Well done. So you've got some lovely chains of analysis building there. Really good.
Have a look what you put, Sarah. Or...
Should we have a look? Yeah, and if any others come through, we'll have a look at those. Yeah, let's see what we suggested. So you could have led to it creating false class consciousness.
Which lots of you are talking about that, aren't you? Yeah. That's what we mean, really, isn't it? Oh, Vanya's come in with one as well. In education, obedience is taught, reproducing inequality between working class, which further leads to alienation. Yeah, very nice.
Oh, alienation is a lovely term to have as part of that analysis, isn't it? So we've said kind of leading workers to accept their exploitation, just as you said. Consequently, working class resistance to inequality is reduced. So it maintains social order, reproduces class structures exactly as Vanya, Jay, Jess have said. Yeah. So yeah, really, really good analysis, and that kind of what it maintains and what it reproduces, really kind of powerful language to use to show analysis.
Yeah. We've got one from Mary as well. Ideological conditioning is when the working class is taught to accept the rules and values of the ruling class.
Yeah.
Working class may accept low pay and bad work conditions because they believe the system is fair. Excellent.
Absolutely, okay. Yeah, because they believe it's fair. They believe it's working in their interests. And the other thing you could say is they believe it's fair, and they also believe it's inevitable.
Yeah, fatalism can come from this as well.
It obscures exploitation. That's really nice.
Hide the underlying economic reality of working class exploitation, therefore diverting attention away from structural inequalities for the working class. This is all brilliant stuff. Very, very good.
I think these guys had a slice of sociology pie for lunch today.
Absolutely. However, this stops them from fighting for better jobs or pay. Yeah. Therefore, the ruling class can keep control and stay rich and powerful. Absolutely. Yeah. Really
fantastic. Right.
Can we link it to the lad? Can we link it to the lads study by Willis? You could, but that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because if we think about something like Bowles and Gintis, who very much explain why working class kids might become compliant and obedient. And then Willis is he's also coming from a Marxist point of view, his lads are anything but compliant and obedient, but it still has the same outcome. It still has the working class kids ending up having working class jobs, and that's very much that sort of thinking that things are inevitable and fatalism, and sort of there's no point trying. It's so that's absolutely you could link it to that. Sorry,
well done. Right, next one. Analyse the effect of the hidden curriculum on working class students. So this one, we want to see it kind of specifically related to education.
Yeah.
And again, we want to see those terms, consequently, therefore, this leads to, the implications of this are.
So I might have just given away a little bit of this when I was talking about balls and ginties just then, but how does the hidden curriculum specifically do this? Oh, so we set the timer on. Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
If you can think of a feature of the hidden curriculum, that'd be particularly good, wouldn't it? Like something...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice kind of example.
Yeah. Specific. I don't know if we've got that in the description, but it could be quite nice.
Yes. There's lots of different examples as well. You could use different features of the hidden curriculum. It does work in a lot of different ways.
Maybe a nice contemporary one.
You might want to focus particularly on working class students. But you might also want to create that comparison maybe with middle class students. Oh, Matilda, that's an interesting question. Could you talk about the ethnocentric curriculum in this question? Yes, but if we're thinking about class, we want to think about that being the kind of middle class values and the middle class kind of curriculum, which is, ethnocentric in a way, but I think kind of be specific about what you mean.
It's interesting because obviously there's things where you can make links between the different social groups, and obviously, some minority ethnic groups are more likely to be working class, so you can make connections. But, if we've got a question about class, you want your answer to be focused around class. If you've got a question around ethnicity, you want your answer to be focused around ethnicity. If you're going to link the two, you want to be really explicit that this is like a really interesting piece of analysis that you're adding and you're explaining why you're doing it, so that they don't think you're answering a different question. Loads have come in since we had that. Mariam, sorry. Working class students learn to accept rules and authority without question, which prepares them for low-paid jobs. Brilliant. Yeah.
Yep, hidden curriculum affects working class students by teaching them obedience, punctuality. They're those features, aren't they? Well done. Nice and specific, and acceptance of authority. Excellent. This mirrors preparing them for the subordination of work. That's lovely.
Great stuff.
Daisies, the unwritten rules. I think it's really important when you talk about hidden curriculum to show that kind of unwritten or subtle. There's kind of terms to show that you really understand what it is. That's good.
Socialising
working class students into subordinate job roles, for example, teaching kids to follow rules would create the perfect working class workers. Well done. And then Vanya, hidden curriculum such as queuing up. That's a great example. Lining up in order of hierarchy. A school is hierarchy is therefore replicated. It replicates the capitalist work environment. Excellent. So these are the effects, aren't they? The effects are that it is preparing these students to just accept their fate in the capitalist work environment. And however this can limit their confidence and ambition compared to middle class students, yes. And we talk about warming up and cooling down.
Yeah, you want to make those comparisons, what's the impact on working class students, how does this differ from what the middle class students are doing. Yeah, Daisy, correspondence principle is a really good study to use to explain the hidden curriculum.
You would absolutely link the two. Because the hidden curriculum creates that correspondence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hidden curriculum acts as a barrier to the working class as their values and norms are not represented. So we've got this kind of hegemonic version of, what is expected, what is rewarded within the system. And a lot of that is based around cultural capital, isn't it? So middle class behaviours, middle class values, middle class norms are being rewarded. So the teacher may... even subtly favour the middle class as they align with this hegemonic version of the ideal student.
Fantastic.
Uniforms as well, linking it to white collar and blue collar. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, white collar, blue collar, they're quite old terms now, but they still kind of say a lot, don't they? Yeah, absolutely. And that correspondence of dress codes and uniforms, the correspondence to the workplace.
Yeah, Mariam's put, therefore, the hidden curriculum helps reproduce social inequality because working class students are less likely to challenge their position in society. Absolutely.
Well done, Mariam.
And Jess, with the rules and authority within the education system, such as manners and timeliness, this helps to create a workforce that is subservient for the proletariat.
Yes, brilliant word.
The proletariat is subservient, and works for the bourgeoisie. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Well done.
Fantastic. So see what you brought.
What we said is going to be as good.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be. Yeah, I mean, it's very good, but they've done really well, haven't they? Yeah.
So we said working class students are socialised sort of via this hidden curriculum to fit into lower status roles, limiting their opportunities for advancement. So we saw some of that in your analysis there, guys. Well done. Furthermore, it transmits middle class values that may conflict with working class backgrounds, creating this kind of cultural disadvantage within schools, and therefore inequality is reproduced again and again because the education system systematically benefits those who've already got privilege.
Excellent. We've got one last one.
Last one. Okay, this is a criticisms one, but also this is going to test your knowledge of social policies. So 2 criticisms of social policies. Now, it doesn't say education policy. You could use education policy, but because it says social policies, you could talk about crime, if you've got that far in the curriculum yet. You could talk about family policy.
Work, poverty and welfare policies, if you do that topic.
Yes. Even kind of more indirect policies like the Equal Pay Act.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Health and safety kind of policies and things in the workplace. So any kind of policy or legislation you want to think about, what would be the criticisms of those according to Marxists? There might be things that we think of as very positive policies, but Marxists actually take issue with them or see through them.
And if you do, at some point you will look at, and you may have already done this, or this might be something you'll do later on, as part of your overall theory and sort of debates bit of it, sociologists' views on social policy, and what Marxists think about social policy in general is a really useful thing to have in your toolbox for a question on social policy.
You might want to use the word distrust.
Yeah.
Could be useful. I'm excited to see what you're currently typing.
I know. Oh, I haven't turned the timer off, so go on. You got loads more than 30 seconds on this one.
You could probably turn each of these into a 10-mark essay if you wanted to carry on with your practice after the session.
You could.
Oh, well done, Jess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. There's a lovely phrase for that, actually, that we might talk about. Just give everyone else a minute to keep typing. 30 seconds went quickly.
Didn't it? It is very quick, as 30 seconds. I think 30 seconds tends to be good for a kind of give me 3 or whatever analysis. I think we might need to create the 60-second analysis challenge, might we?
I think we do. 90 seconds, do you think? 100 seconds?
It's got a ring to it, hasn't it? It's got a ring to it.
Yeah. Let's start having a look at Jess's while the others are coming through. Yeah. So Jess said health and safety in the workplace. The health and safety legislation, particularly the Health and Safety at Work Act, which I think is 1974 maybe, is seen as something that protects workers, isn't it? But actually what Jess is pointing out here is it allows the bourgeoisie to blame the proletariat for work accidents. So it kind of weaponizes health and safety, but also on the other side of that, it keeps workers safe. If it keeps them safe, it keeps them working. And therefore that's beneficial, isn't it, for the ruling class who are depending on their labour. And the phrase we sometimes use, I haven't seen it yet, the phrase we use is capitalism with a kind face, or the kind face of capitalism. So the idea that it's kind of got this kind persona, but actually it's there just to keep things running. So Jay has said many social policies serve the ruling class by controlling the working class. Yep. Welfare state policies, absolutely. Provides enough support to keep the unemployed from absolute poverty, but not actually enough to thrive.
Yeah, before that, I think Vanya had said about kind of I guess it's about sort of selective law creation and law enforcement in terms of crime. Yeah, absolutely. Really good.
It's a really good point for this. Yeah, so social policies are selectively created, aren't they, and selectively enforced by the ruling classes. Stable workforce here, well done, Joe. And then the NHS keeps workers just well enough to so having an NHS. You know, I do think of the NHS as an absolutely amazing thing.
Yes.
But if we look at it through this Marxist lens, we can see it as this thing that just keeps everyone going, so the exploitation can continue. We have a healthy enough workforce to keep exploiting them. And
of course keeps people just about happy enough not to have a revolution as well. that people are exploited, but they're not left completely desperate. So yeah, there's quite a lot of it's interesting, isn't it? And just in broad terms, in general terms, Marxists tend to think, and radical feminists kind of come into this similar position, that the state and that the government will always be working in the interests of, in the case of Marxists, the bourgeoisie and capitalism, in the case of radical feminists, patriarchy and men, and therefore social policy isn't going to solve the problems. It's not. You need much more radical change. Social policy isn't going to be the solution to. Because
social policy within the existing structure, aren't they? And you're radical feminist and you're staunch Marxist are kind of thinking that entire structure needs to be ripped down and redone.
Yeah. Okay.
So our suggestions were: Marxists argue that social policies often maintain capitalism rather than challenge it, just what we were talking about. For example, welfare or health and safety, as you guys have brilliantly brought up, may appear to support individuals but may actually keep the working class healthy simply so they can work. Or you could have gone down the route of the illusion of meritocracy. Often there are education or welfare reforms that are presented as equal opportunities, but actually they are existing to reproduce class inequality, and they continue to favour those with cultural or economic capital.
Jess, a couple more from Jess.
Well done, so it allows workers to be just satisfied with their pay, enough to avoid a revolution, but not enough for them to, I love that, not allowing them to transcend classes. What a lovely way to talk about social mobility. That's great. Yeah, fantastic.
So we're done. I've been really, really impressed by the answers today. I think there's been an excellent session for the students. They've done really, really well, because some of it's pretty challenging stuff, but you know your stuff, so you should be feeling very confident and pleased with yourselves. Your teachers should be very pleased with themselves as well.
Great depth, really good.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So I suggest you join us next week for looking still on Marxism next week. We're having a good Marxist fortnight, but we're going to be evaluating Marxism next week. So, and I can tell from your answers today that you'll be excellent at that. Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you very much those of you who are still watching. We will see you next time. Cheers, guys. Bye bye.
Well done, guys.